All right. Boom. Hi, and welcome back to Climbing Focus. This is episode 2 of our podcast. Yes, we decided to come back and do it again. So thanks for coming and watching. I would like to personally thank all 6 people who have watched episode 1. Each and every one of you. I think I was 3 of the views. I think Dean was 2 of them.
Yeah.
And so, thanks, Mum.
Those are 12 eyes and 12 ears.
12 eyes.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, we're almost up to like a crowd at this point.
That's a fun party. I don't know.
So, how you been, Dean?
Been good, busy. I'm in grad school, so it's been a lot of research about environmental policy, and I think I just made people fall asleep already.
Excuse me, it's been a long day.
So a lot of that. I have not been able to climb in the past week or so.
Withdrawing.
Yeah.
The withdrawals, the jitters.
Yeah. It's just not as easy to get out there when when you're in a research paper.
Right, I get that. So my name's Fiona, this is Dean, and we are trying to create a podcast to increase community awareness of accidents that have happened, and the aim is to spread the awareness of what has happened to other people. With that said, I have a subreddit called Climbing Accidents. So if you go to Reddit and go to /r/climbing accidents, please upload anything that you have seen or experienced yourself. I'd love some new content, new reports. Use that as a repository of just like owning our mistakes and sharing what happened, what you learned, how you think as a community we can improve our safety. Maybe the report you make is the person or helps the person who creates a checklist that in their mind that saves them on a day they might have otherwise fucked up. So, or might have otherwise messed up. I need to do a PG version.
I think we're fine.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll just bleep it out. You muddy funster.
And remember, we won't laugh at you, but we will also laugh at you.
Yes. We won't mean to laugh at you unless it's funny. And everyone's okay. Yeah. That's the rule.
Yeah.
And you are welcome to laugh at me when I tell you about the mistakes I've made over the years. So we have our first incident that we're going to look at. We pulled this from the BMC, the British Mountaineering Council's website, that has a very good accident reporting setup. So if you get a chance to look at that, the link will be below the video on YouTube. So have a look, click the link, read some reports, learn some stuff. So the first incident that we'll look at is a climber who fell when a torso-sized block fell off the rock. Now, we frequently think that rock is safe because it's been climbed on a lot, but this is something to think about. That means it perhaps isn't. This was a popular route, a very popular route, and didn't have any pre-warning as far as the report goes, is that there was any loose rock or any potential rock to fall. So the climber pulled off a torso-sized block between the 8th and 9th bolt. It says climber, but I believe they were leading. The rock felt okay until it wasn't. The climber fell immediately, quickly followed by the block, which grazed their arm on the way down but missed the rope. The climber shouted rock multiple times immediately and looked around during the fall and saw the block's trajectory being alarmingly close to both the belayer and the adjacent belayer, but missed them by a couple of meters, which in American is 6 feet-ish.
That's still close enough.
It's close. It's very close.
That's close enough to where when that rock hits the ground, it could shoot shards out.
Close to death.
Oh, yeah.
Just a few feet from death.
Still feel it.
So it says that everyone checked in with each other. There were some nearby climbers. They checked in as well just to make sure that everyone was okay. I'm sure you're very shaken up when something like that happens. It's easy in a state of shock to make a mistake and do something silly just because you're not in your right mind. You're not in your normal state of mind that you think you will be. Some people react better to shock. Some people really struggle with shock and make some bad decisions. So it's important to check in if you see something and make sure everyone's okay when something like that happens. And everyone needs to just take a step back and take a minute. Now, it says here that the climber double-checked the surrounding rock to make sure what was left was sound and was initially happy to carry on the route, but it was slightly harder without the block, not in position, and the climber was not in the right headspace to push hard. So they stick clipped their way up the rest of the route and then retreated. So they knocked and checked a few other spots as they were lowering to make sure that the rock was safe and not likely to detach. And also it says that it was impossible for anyone to be hit below the climb who wasn't directly belaying, as there was no areas in there. I think it was steep enough at the bottom that there was just a climber's trail along the base of the climb, and then you couldn't hang out in that area. There wasn't like a chill zone at the bottom where a lot of people, so there was no risk for other people to get hit.
That is the one thing that I would like to see more, even in the gym space, is people communicating more with full voice. So I feel as though, especially when you are outside, if you hear one person yell rock, I feel like everyone who's around should probably yell as well, just so everybody's on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, even in the gym, like if people even
Yeah.
repelled or not, or come down like right on top of your head and they don't say a single thing. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Suddenly there's this butt coming down right on your face.
Or even the person next to you watching the person come down on your head. They're just watching.
Just watching it. So I think the lessons to be learned on this is just because it's a popular crag that's being climbed a lot, that doesn't mean the rock is sound. It doesn't mean that it's safe. It doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to have a decent, safe climbing environment.
I agree completely. I was actually going to ask you if you ever had this happen while climbing. Like you've taken a pretty good whipper from like a
Yeah,
rock coming out. Yeah,
I've definitely fallen with rocks in my hands. Like the whole damn holder's come off and you still have it in your hand as you fall off.
Did you put it in your pocket?
Just keep it as a souvenir. Keeping out of that. Keep that one. Yeah, I mean, it happens quite often. It depends on the rock quality. There's actually there's a trick that someone taught me years ago, which has been super useful. If ever I go to a new crag, I still do this. You walk up to the crag and don't look up at the rock to understand how the term for breaking rock that breaks easily is friable. So if a cliff is friable, it's hard to tell by looking at it. Sometimes they look very friable with lots of little pieces all over, but when you get there, everything is cemented really well and most of the loose rock is already gone and it's solid as anything. But other times you think it looks solid and pieces just keep peeling off and it's a horrible quality rock. So the way to tell that isn't to look at the rock face, it's to look at the floor as you approach the cliff. So you're looking for lots of little pieces of rock all over the base. And if there's lots of little pieces, they all came from above. And so it's a really effective way to assess the friability of a cliff by looking at the floor. They say they screamed rock repeatedly. I think that's really important. I think there's a degree of importance imparted in the severity of the scream. Like someone might knock a pebble off and shout rock, but if it's like rock, 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 you know there's something to react to. It's very hard not to look up when someone screams rock. But again, this was something I was taught years ago, was try to train yourself to not look up. You want to get under your helmet and get as much of you under your helmet as possible and not look up, because a lot of people are seriously injured and killed when they look up and take the rock to the face. So if the shout is good, you might want to look to see if you can dodge the rock and get out of the way. But that brings me to one of my other points, that the belayer's alertness was on point, which is good, as it should be. That shouldn't be a positive thing. That should be a normal thing. Every belayer should be good. But before you climb, particularly if you see that the rock might be friable, then try to not be in a place where rock can fall on you. So if you think there's a possibility that rockfall might occur, then put your belayer in a place where they're safe from rockfall, so they're not right in the chute of the line of where the rock is coming down. So it's important to think about where the belayer is going to be and position them safely out of the rockfall zone.
And again, we said in the last episode, but belayer needs to be wearing a helmet as well. So if a rock hits them in the head, they don't get knocked out.
I think the other thing that's useful out of this will be the chill zone, like the place where people hang out. So hanging out at the base of a climb is pretty normal for us to do. But again, check the friability of the area. And if you're sitting underneath someone who's actively climbing, then you can expect that some rock might come down. And if you're sitting, you're not really going to be able to get out of the way of that rock. High Wire Crag in Colorado, the day after I was climbing there, I saw a mother and father climbing with their two friends. They were all wearing helmets. All the adults were wearing helmets. They put their baby in a rockfall zone at the base of a crag in a car seat, open-topped car seat, right underneath those two 5.8s on the left-hand side of high wire. I wanted to climb that 5.8, and I went up, I looked, and I just said, this is insane. The base of those climbs even have a little cave to start, and they could have put the baby safe under there.
Jeez.
It just blew my mind that I might knock a pebble off and kill a child.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. And what frustrated me the most was all the parents wore helmets. And a newborn baby who was months old didn't.
That's wild.
It was wild. It was a wild thing to see.
It sounds so Colorado, though.
It's not the only time I've seen it.
Yeah.
I went to step over what I thought was a backpack once, and it was a baby in a thing with a towel, like a blanket over. And I'm like, oh my God, there's this baby under my foot. I'm going to cut that out. That sounds right. I do not need that.
Baby under my foot.
There's a baby under your foot. What's wrong with a baby? What's wrong with you? So it's not a good idea to hang out in areas where rock might fall. And I know we all do it, but just have a look at the shape of the cliff and where the climber is. Rock is going to move down its easiest path. And if it bounces sideways and off sideways, like which way is it going to go and where is it going to stop? Have a look to see how far away the rock is. If you are at the base of a climb and a rock falls, it's generally safer to go flat face into the rock rather than step backwards and try to dodge it, because rock will always skip away from the cliff. And again, you can see that if you look at the base of a cliff, there's almost no rock in the first foot. It all starts about 12 inches away from the base of the climb, because it generally will hit something and skip off. If you really want to see like a lot of debris falling off cliffs, go to ice climbing areas and watch an ice climber. Because every single climb you'll kick off pieces from tennis ball to cantaloupe sized. But a friend of mine had his scapula smashed when a piece of ice fell on the climber adjacent. A climber knocked it down. He didn't even think it was a problem because the climber was like 20 feet to the right. He was well clear of the drop zone of that piece of ice. And he turned his back just to like avoid the ice. The rock almost got to the ground before it hit a deflecting piece of shape of the ice and went sideways, almost perpendicular to the ground, hit him on the back and shattered his scapula.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was pretty bad luck.
Where was this?
This was in Uray.
This is Uray.
Ice climbing in Uray. And by strange coincidence, that guy is the guy that Errol Ralston, the 127 guys, he was supposed to climb with my friend Wolfgang that day. And they couldn't climb that 14er that day in winter, so Aaron decided to go canyoneering instead because the weather was too bad on their climbing, and he was supposed to be climbing with the guy who broke his scapula.
Whoa.
And my friend Wolfgang, who lives in the Springs. Yeah, Colorado Springs. Yeah. So Wolfgang is not mentioned in the movie, but he is mentioned in the book. So
How big was the piece?
it was about the size of an American football.
Okay.
Yeah, which for English people is about the size of a rugby ball. There we go. Keep that translation going. Okay. Incident 2. All right, the second thing we'll talk about this week.
We're moving countries here.
We are moving countries. Where are we going, Dean?
We're going to France.
So this is another sport route. This time, a person lowered off the end of the rope. They fell 3 meters. That's what, 9 feet-ish, 10 feet? I think 3 meters is 10 feet. So they fell about 10 feet, which is enough to get hurt if you land awkwardly and certainly onto a rock or anything like that. It's far enough to...
That's a story.
Yeah, it's a great story if you live.
That's one story.
It's one story.
Yeah.
One of the many.
So if you fall, imagine like falling off your roof of your home.
Right.
Yeah.
In America, because in English people that would be a lot higher. So yeah, if you're getting lowered and that rope goes through their hands and off they go, they fell. The reason they thought they were safe was the guidebook told them they only needed a 50-meter rope to be safe to lower off that route. And they were using a 50 meter, and it was several feet short. So, pretty obvious that the obvious thing to do in this, and I'm sure you're all sitting there going, why didn't they tie a stopper knot? Well, that is a great question. The climb was back in July of 2024, so it is very common knowledge that lots and lots of people have died from being either lowered off ropes or rappelling off the end of ropes that don't have stopper knots. Stopper knots are not the incredible safe thing that people think they are. If you hit them hard enough, they will undo. So there is some school of thought that says that you maybe need to do a triple stopper in there instead of just a double.
And there's a question, Do you know, like, have you ever done it or know any climbers that even put like a warning that you're getting close to the end, like with a piece of tape or anything that would say that you are getting close to the end so you don't have to, like once you get there, you think, I'm close to my stop or not?
Yeah, the problem with using tape is it would wear off pretty quickly as it goes through the belay device. There are some ropes you can buy that have a hatched coloured section where the colour of the rope changes as you get to the end. And I think that should be standard. I think the sheath should change it halfway, should be just a standard thing, but it adds a lot of cost to the rope to change the sheath. And so those ropes are generally about $100 more to get a fancy coloured sheath, if anything. But sure, I mean, if you're a new climber and you value your life at more than $100, I mean, I don't. Actually, I do. I have a bicoloured sheath over there sitting up there on the shelf because it's definitely worth having an easy to tell middle point that can't wear out, and you don't need to colour it with a marker and you can't possibly miss it. So it is definitely worth the money to get one of those sheaths. Spend that little bit extra. Generally, ropes that have the multiple coloured sheaths that tell you where halfway is, they're better quality ropes as well. So you're paying a little bit more for a rope that you'll use for 5 years maybe, and have that rope, and if you're lucky, use it a lot. And $100 divided by the number of times you use that rope, not just days climbing, but climbs on that day, multiply that into the value of that $100.
Or $100 in like medical bills. You could do that too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You could try and buy your friend back.
Yeah, there you go.
Who's dead because you wanted to save $100. Like,
that's beautifully morbid.
Yeah.
That's so morbid.
Back to death. Welcome to the Death Podcast. Climbing Death Podcast.
It's the reality of it.
Unfortunately, that is what we're trying to prevent, but we have to look at shit that goes wrong. So I think one of the lessons we can learn is to make a stop or not part of your buddy check. So get it into your routine. Routines save lives. If you can have a solid routine, then you will live longer. That routine will, at some point, catch a mistake. One of the other things I see people doing when they're lowering, and I'm going to stand up just to show you what I mean here. When they're lowering, they often, like with their gree or whatever, and here they go, lower, 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 lower. And they have their controlling hand up here as they're lowering. So if that rope goes through their hand, they have, by the time they felt it go through their hand, it's through the device immediately. So this hand doesn't have to be here. It could just as easily be down here. So straight down like that with the other gree up here. So now you've got a distance of this much to react. So if you're lowering carefully and slowly and you feel that rope go through your hand, you might be able to catch it before it goes out. It goes through the end. So a good habit is to have that hand down low as you lower and control it with whatever you're doing up here, wherever you're lowering like this. So keeping that tail long as you lower. That's how I do it, and I'm still alive.
Somehow.
Somehow. No one more surprised than me. And friends who've known me a long time. Yeah, so tire stop or not, maybe think about adapting your lowering technique to be able to account for that, and check that your belayer does that for you. Lower people slowly, so if there is a mistake, you have a chance to react. You know, this Hollywood bullshit where you're zipping people down through stuff, it makes your stuff really hot. So it's hard to handle when you're trying to undo it, and it wears stuff out. There is no advantage to zipping someone down the rock. And of course, there's the potential that they kick a rock off a ledge, they invert themselves, hurt themselves. Like, just take a nice slow lowering as you land. Just be smart and sensible.
Yeah. And as a belayer, you can also wear gloves too. That helps that burn.
Helps the burn. Do you know why I don't like belay gloves? I never have. I don't like my belayer to be wearing gloves because if they're lowering me so fast, they need gloves. They're lowering me too fast. You shouldn't need gloves. That's how I feel about that. You shouldn't be rappelling so fast you need gloves. You shouldn't be belaying so fast you need gloves. I've been climbing for more than 3 decades, and I have never worn gloves to belay. So I'm not a fan. To me, it reduces the feel on the rope. And I would rather have my belayer feeling the rope, being slowed down by friction and heat, and lowering at a sensible speed. So there is no potential for accident.
Did you hear that? Throw your gloves out the window right now.
Don't fucking need
them.
No
more. Toss them.
You don't need them. You just don't need them. Like if you're a guide and you're belaying all day, every day, yeah, your hands are going to get pretty messed up by the rope over time. But other than that, I don't know. Why do you own belay gloves? Why? Convince me why I need to buy belay gloves. Why, after several decades of climbing, I need to finally buy some belay gloves. Why do I need belay gloves? I don't think I do. If you think I do, you make your case. I'd love to hear it. So the belayer always needs to be more aware of how much rope is left. We very much focus our head up as we're lowering and watching up here and just focusing on at the top. We need to be paying attention to the pile of rope as it's coming up. Need to make sure it's feeding correctly. No sticks and stuff are getting involved in there, that no one's kicked anything onto that as you weren't paying attention. And as you're lowering, that you're paying attention to how much rope is coming out. If you are paying attention to the pile, you should be well aware that you're probably not going to get that person down before they get there. So tire stopper, pay attention.
You want to talk about the elasticity of the ropes?
So the standard elasticity, I think Petzl says their ropes are 20% elastic, and that's kind of a general kind of standard that people use in calculations. It's like a 20% elasticity. But ropes don't have exactly the same elasticity. Different thicknesses will have slightly different elasticity. And so what probably happened, why a 50-meter rope was put in the book as it was okay versus another rope that wasn't. What might have happened is these climbers who experienced the accident, it could have been an early climb in the day for them, and they didn't have any falls. The people who said 50 meters is going to be long enough might have spent the day climbing. They might have been projecting on that rope, and that would have stretched that rope out a little bit. So that rope would have been longer than 50 meters, and then they do this route, they come down and they go, a 50 is just fine. Because in fact their rope was maybe 55 meters by that point. And that led to the accident, 53 meters, whatever it was, that led to the accident. They could have been standing closer to the cliff when they lowered. 50 meters could have been okay had they climbed up the first 10 feet of the climb and lowered them down. So the elasticity is affected by the number of times you fall on a rope as well. So if they had been projecting and the rope had got stretched a little bit, it isn't going to contract like. It takes more time for that rope to contract. It's why most lead climbers, when they're projecting something and they are taking multiple falls on something that's kind of hard for them, it's a good idea to switch ends of the rope frequently. So after a fall, switch ends, let that rope come back. What is the law? There's this physics law, Hooke's law, I believe it is, that has the elastic limit in the creep section and the stuff like that. As rope gets into the creep, it takes a while for that rope to creep back, to return to elasticity.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. So if you did have a 50-meter rope at the end of its life, what do you know, the creep comes back, but could you potentially have like a 55 to 60?
It wouldn't be 10 meters.
Much.
No, it wouldn't be 10 meters. I
guess I can say it again.
I would expect someone who has projected a rope hard, that rope, when they come to retire, it would be longer than when they bought it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that would be, you know what, if anyone has that measurement and projects hard, measure your rope and tell us how long it actually is.
Do it right now. Just take it outside, put it on the street, and just run in one direction.
50 times. And see, measure it at the start, run 50 times.
Then measure it. Yeah.
Tie it to your belt.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll have that answer. We are not doing that for science.
Nope.
We will leave that to Ryan from How Not To.
Not right now.
That's one for him. If you're not familiar with Ryan's channel over at How Not To, Breaking Gear Fear is their kind of thing. They are fantastic. I always want to give that guy a plug. He has done some really, really interesting stuff, and I think his channel is fantastic, so please do support it. So it's something we haven't really talked about, like the human effect of accidents. And anyone who climbs who has an accident may appear fine, but this is why someone who is not involved in the accident needs to step up and step in and take control and just say, you're not doing anything right now, you need to sit down. Like an incident one where the guy decided to keep climbing. That was a bad decision from someone in a state of shock. They should not have attempted to keep climbing. They were in a state of shock.
I was going to say, if that was me, I would have come straight down. I'm done.
I get why they wanted to carry on
anymore.
Yeah,
at that point.
I mean, they probably wanted to finish the route because it's safer to rappel off double anchors.
Sure.
But the idea of like coming, you don't know how stable this cliff is now. Like, you shouldn't have kept going on that one. It was probably the right thing to come down and just play it safe. So on this one, yeah, same kind of thing. These guys have just rappelled off the end of the rope. That have been lowered off the end of the rope. One guy has hit the ground hard and is writhing around in pain. The other guy just fucked up. Like, the other guy just messed up bad enough that he has dropped his friend. You can see how it happened. It's not like anyone's going, oh my God, you're an idiot. Oh my God, you're the worst climber ever. You're an irresponsible person. It could happen. It was as much the climber's fault as it was the belayers, because the climber should have checked there was a stopper nut in there as well. So you have to take responsibility. You're a team when you do this. When something goes wrong, it is a team mistake, not an individual mistake. So having seen that happen and being part of it, both of those people would have been in a state of shock. And that state of shock, like when you hear of people at accidents walking around like they were just wandering around like dummies, they have no idea. And when you see someone like that, when you talk to them, they seem entirely coherent. They can seem fine. And they say, no, I'm good. I'm totally fine. Don't worry about me. Help someone else. I'm good. Like if you are on the scene of an accident, then you need to find someone who was not involved in that accident and assign them to that person and give them the job of staying with that person and making sure they're okay. Yeah, but when someone is in that post-traumatic moment, that everybody who is a part of that suffers shock to some degree. If you as a like on-site responder, you also will suffer shock. Like everybody will go through some kind of shock and then have a post-traumatic stress response to that as well. So it is important to deal with the mental aspect of an accident as well as the physical. So for this one, we're going to dive back in the archives a little bit. I just wanted to put it because it was an interesting incident, but this is from 2007.
And we're going back across.
We're back in England.
Yeah, back across the channel.
Yes, back across the channel from France, back across...
Even though I'm American, I know a little bit.
What do they call it in France? Le Merde. No, they don't call it that. They call it something else. Le Manche. I think it's Le Manche, isn't it?
Above the channel.
Something like that, I forget. But we call it the English Channel because it's fucking ours. Right. Je suis très désolé, je pense. So this is a guy who was on lead. He's trad leading. He gets 6 meters up. So what's that? 6'3", 18, 20 feet, 21? About just a little over 20 feet off the ground, 6 meters, before he puts his first piece in, a cam. So he dislodges the cam as he climbs past it, bumps it with his elbow, climbs up, gets into difficulty. It's hard. He has to make a choice. Do I push through this and get to my next placement and get some more gear in? Or do I down climb? He made a conscious decision to push forward and go to his next placement rather than climb down and place the cam back in. As he did so, he slipped, he fell. The only cam that he had in ripped. He fell down and he hit a ledge, bounced off the ledge, and then hit the ground. So, what saved him was his helmet. And what kind of helmet was it, Dean?
It was an old bike helmet.
It was an old bike helmet.
Like the kind that you see little kids riding with. You know, they should have a better helmet than that as a child.
A bike helmet. So he was
helmets you see from the 90s.
Right. So in 2007, I don't think I was wearing a helmet very often either. I think I owned a helmet. I think I still might have it. I'll try and dig it out.
I think I wore it when we went climbing.
Yeah, maybe. The yellow one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old Edelrid Ultralight, which at the time was the shit. Now you put it on, you look like Beaker from the
You're
Muppets.
a total dork.
Yeah, I love lending it to people. I actually have a really nice one to lend now as well.
Look like a goober.
It's a thing. But yeah, he was wearing a bike helmet, so I suppose better than nothing. But the reason bike helmets are not rock climbing helmets is their impact resistance. So part of the UIAA testing for rock climbing helmets involves a spike that is pressed into the top of the helmet, and it checks how much penetration the spike can, how much force it takes to penetrate. And there's a level at which the helmet has to resist that force to prevent penetration. So that is the standard test for a UIA climbing helmet, which is why the other one was so dorky, was because it would sit so high, the basket kept it high to give more space for that penetration test to pass. So now, of course, they just can, they have better materials, and what was ultralight back in the day is now way, way heavier, 5 times heavier than
without a doubt.
A standard helmet today. So the impact resistance isn't the same on a bicycle helmet. They just take general impact on fairly smooth materials like roads and curbs and trees and posts and all those kind of things. And they're all fairly uniform in shape. There's not jagged pieces like there are on rocks. And that's what our helmets are designed to protect, is the impact into jagged pieces of rock. So if you only had a bike helmet, it's better than nothing, but it's not what you should be choosing to wear.
No. Plus, you look dumb.
Yeah. And we're back to that, like the idea of wearing a helmet years ago, you know, like snowboarding, all that kind of stuff. Like if you wore a helmet years ago, you look like a dork. Nowadays, you don't wear a helmet, you look like a freaking idiot. You're just like, why, dude? Come on, seriously. And again, I think on very steep climbs, you can probably justify not wearing a helmet. But on everything else, wear a helmet.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Dean, do you want to just read the reports to us so we get an idea of what happened?
Sure, yeah. All right.
Thanks.
So he ended up on his side, back facing down the hill. He was conscious and coherent throughout the entire rescue. During his fall, his helmet, again, a bicycle helmet, was cracked at the rear in a few places. So it sounds like it was pretty messed up and you'd have to probably throw that away like right afterwards. Never use that again. The climber remembers hitting his head fairly hard on his first impact with the ledge. Other climbers on the scene came quickly to lend assistance. The casualty was in an awkward position, so packs and rocks were used to support his body. From this position, he wasn't moved until about an hour later when he was carried out. Ambulance arrived at the scene about 20 minutes after the initial 911 out of pure
000. They were in Australia, not England. Sorry, this one is from Australia.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I totally just said 911 just out of habit because I knew what it was talking. You know what I mean? The Queensland Fire and Rescue Service and the State Emergency Service turned up soon after. A helicopter was also called, but the strong winds prevented a winch out. The SES conducted a stretcher carry with about 25 people helping. From the top of the scree slope, the climber was ferried by ambulance to the care flight chopper.
It's like the flight for life.
Yeah, it's got to be what theirs is. And then transported to the hospital. It was found out that the climber suffered broken lower vertebrae, a broken ankle, broken ribs, and minor internal injuries. You know, I don't ever view any internal injury as minor.
Right.
The victim acknowledges that placing more protection after a large run out is his standard practice, but failed to do so in this case. He also has stated that care and attention is needed as you climb past gear, as knocking it can move it into insecure position. The use of a helmet proved invaluable in this instance.
Right.
I am terrible at reading out loud.
You did fine. It was good. So yeah, I think that's the obvious takeaway, is placing a single piece before you get to the crux of a route or a difficulty on a route is obviously not adequate. The climber acknowledges that. So if you climb trad, it's pretty obviously like sport. The first bolt usually at sport is pretty high up. And then in sport, the second bolt sometimes is quite high up again, almost leading to a ground fall if you clip up high. So people who start climbing in trad will often have that same mindset. But if you're climbing trad, the distance between like a first and second bolt in trad, you should probably have an extra piece in between that distance. So you're breaking up your fall distance and reducing any impact as you go. You generally want to put more pieces in above ledges and at the start of the climb. Like that, the first piece can come in reasonably high off the ground, depending on how hard it is. The second piece should come in pretty quickly, usually pretty quickly, like quicker than you might expect. And then the third piece would come in reasonably quickly. The fourth piece will come in perhaps just at the beginning of where you might think to start placing a piece. As soon as you start thinking, maybe I should be thinking about a piece should go in then. By the fifth piece, you can start pacing stuff out a little more and start getting back to regular spaces like sport bolts as you go up.
It's interesting. So, like, never second guess yourself. Once you have that idea, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As long as the first thought you have. Now, if the climbing is super easy and below grade, then that's different. But you're free soloing at that point, which is what this guy was doing. Yeah.
Even if it's something easy, it's good practice.
There is a compromise, like when you place trad gear, of like, do I use this piece or do I save this piece? Like I frequently am just like, I think I might need that higher up, so I'm not going to place it. And then I'm assessing like, how difficult is this climb? Like, am I comfortable here? Am I well within my limit? And also getting good at reading where the difficulty is on a climb, understanding what this next section looks like and how hard it's going to be is a super valuable skill for a lead climber to have. This is a skill you should practice from the ground. You should look at a climb and read it and understand where the difficulties are likely to be. And you should be able to go, there's the crux. That's the probable crux from the ground. So you don't have any horrible surprises when you get up there. It's often harder when you get up than when you start off. You just think, oh, it'll be easy. And it's usually never as easy as you think it's going to be. There's almost always a little more difficulty. The grades are generally accurate. You know, you have to watch the dates on some climbs. There's some 5.9s that are actually 5.11s. Just because of the era of when they were put in. If they were put in like late 60s, a 1960s Jimmy Dunn climb in Colorado, that's only 5.9. It's not a 5.9. It's just not.
Yeah.
You know, those old climbers who were putting those routes up then were, that was where the grading system stopped. So it was very egotistical to admit, you know, that this should be a 10. Like, this is so, I got up this climb and it's so hard, it's a 10. Like, nobody wanted to say that this is a 10. Nobody wanted to say they found it hard as well. So there was certainly some ego at play.
Yeah, it's a lot of vibrato, whatever you want to call it at play.
No, it's fine. I didn't think it was that hard. And everybody else is struggling. Like, oh, I'd give it a 9. You know, so there was this kind of stuff going on. So it took a while for the 10s to exist. And then they, of course, had the subdivisions of 10s. So, yeah, reading a climb is very important. The other essential skill of lead climbing is down climbing. If you want to become a good lead climber, start practicing down climbing. Do it on boulders, climb up and climb all the way down. It's a good way to warm up as well. Like, find an easy boulder problem and climb up. Climb down, you get twice the value of your warm up then as well for a single problem. And when you go rock climbing, climb up the route, climb down the route. Find something nice and easy. It's a fantastic way to improve your technique, your footwork. Because when you climb up, you can see what's going on, but when you climb down, you can't. So you have to move your body away to plan your foot movements. And that is a really useful technique when you're leading, because you can climb back down to where you went and last rested from. So super important.
It's also an incredible workout. If you've never done it, try it. You're going to get gassed.
Yeah. It's harder than people think, and it shouldn't be. The reason it is because people's footwork isn't very good. So if you practice down climbing, your footwork just gets so much better. And then suddenly you're climbing a grade harder just because you down climbed easy climbs.
Yeah.
So be able to down climb, understand where the routes are. There was a note on here that I took that playing hooky is 5.8, I think it is, multi-pitch in Clear Creek Canyon in Colorado. It's very fun. It's very popular. It's probably the most popular climb in the whole of Clear Creek Canyon. It's a bolted multi-pitch sport route, which just has a great photo op from the top. It's really fun. There's one move on it, on the first pitch, I think, that is probably the crux. And it's a real head problem because it's a smeary foot. And if your foot pops off, it's going to hit a little ledge just far enough down to probably hurt yourself. So it's just going to be like 15, 18 inches down. That'll be just far enough to get enough speed to land awkwardly on it and maybe break your ankle, probably twist it. And you go up there on this horrible smear that just feels horribly insecure on this little slabby bit, and you have to kind of stand up on it. And I think I went up and down that 3 times before I finally decided to work out a different way around it. I didn't do that move. I found a better way that went up slightly to the side of it on this shiny quartz that looked horrendous, but I'm like, I would rather this. I know what I'm getting with shiny quartz.
Right.
I know what I'm getting here, but that is just unknown, and I didn't like the idea of popping off and twisting my ankle. My friend, who is a solid 11 climber outside, fell off it seconding twice. So it's an underrated move.
Sounds like it.
It's kind of tricky. Like, people struggle on it more than you might think.
At least you're in a pretty place.
But it's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, Clear Creek's just 20 minutes from the house. And absolutely fantastic. You know what time it is now, Dean? You know what the time is now, Dean?
Video time.
It's time for climbing clips.
It's time for climbing clips.
Climbing clips.
Okay, I have not watched these, and I didn't want to because I wanted an initial reaction to it.
Oh, jeez.
Holy shit!
Oh, that looks like broken heels.
Okay. Block.
Was that not intentional?
Was that
Oh
not
my
intentional?
You okay? A little slower, please.
Wow. Okay, so the belayer just did that.
Was that, the belayer says,
So-
was that not intentional? And the guy looks around and goes, a little slower, please.
Yeah. Wow.
That again.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my gosh. Ooh, that makes my
Okay.
stomach
What?
like.
Yeah.
Is that not intentional?
Oh, because we've all had that belaying friend that all of a sudden you're dropping a little bit too quick and you yell at him.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are you doing?
And you see as he comes down, he tries to jump,
Out.
hits his feet, and then
Oh my
his
God.
speed flips him almost upside down. And
It looks like he breaks his heels.
Yeah,
Like he hits so hard on
yeah,
that. Oh my
he's
gosh.
lucky not to get hurt. Like
Yeah.
he's probably bruised himself, and he doesn't know just yet because again, shock.
Oh, his feet are gonna be. I guarantee his feet was hurting the next day.
But the
Yeah.
belayer is like, was that intentional? It's like, dude, you fucking dropped him. Like
Yeah.
you dropped him. What are you thinking?
The only way that's gonna happen is if the belayer drops you.
Yeah, and complete oblivion. Immediately, like, oh, did you mean to do that? Like,
And if-
I don't know if that's just ego covering up his obvious mistake, but this is why, as I said before, you slowly lower someone to the ground. You don't zip them down Hollywood style. There is nothing to be gained from that and everything to be lost.
Yeah.
Just stop doing it, you know?
Yeah, that's terrifying. It even looks like it hits his lower back pretty good too.
It's a rough one.
yeah,
So
that's rough.
obvious lesson on that one, just lower your friend carefully.
Just go slow.
Lower your friend like you like them.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. I agree with
So,
that.
Weekend Whipper, belay gone bad.
Another one.
Yeah.
It's gonna make me feel terrible on the inside.
I actually just posted. Hang on. So I actually just posted to Climbing Focus in the blog on the website, so climbingfocus.com. The article is called "You Suck at Belaying" or "Do You Suck at Belaying?" Do you
Oh
suck?
yeah, I was reading that.
Yeah, so have a read of that. It's a little bit lengthy because I'm a bit of a waffler and I like to go on. But have a read through of that if you want. And so I decided I would see if we could find some belaying mishaps to go along with the article. So climbingfocus.com will be where we post all our videos. So that's kind of the central hub for all of this stuff, as well as any articles I decide to write because I'm bored.
Yeah, and if you're new to climbing and you do have your friend belayer, whoever is doing it, and they're going really slow, you know what? That's way better than being dropped to the floor.
Yeah.
Even though it is frustrating, you
Yeah.
can't deny it is very frustrating.
It can be.
As you're coming down, it's just.
I never tell them to go faster though.
Yeah, no, you can definitely. You feel like you can see the rock age though, as you're coming down.
It's getting compressed.
It's like,
This cliff
please.
was higher when I climbed it.
Yeah, you get a really good
Sediment layer. There's a new sediment layer on top. by the time you get down.
But it's better than being dropped. Any day.
All right. So,
There's the next one here.
next one.
Direita lá em cima. Bora, Lu, bora, Lu.
Junta as mãos ali, ajeita.
Junta as mãos ali, ajeita. Bora,
Essa
Lu.
mão. Ajeita.
Ajeita essa mão. Ajeita, mais. Pegou. Não solta, não solta. Puxa a corda.
Push it hard down.
Puxa a corda. Bora.
Respira e costura.
Respira e costura.
Retesa.
Retesa. Caralho.
Watch the belayer. Watch the belayer.
I was watching the
Paying
belayer.
that rope. Guy goes to clip. He goes to clip. He's going. He fails on his clip. So the belayer's paying the rope out.
He's panicking.
You look at the slack in the rope. He dropped
my
the rope.
gosh.
The guy is not taking in. Now he starts taking in. But look at that technique.
Yeah.
He drops the rope.
Horrendous.
He's not wearing a helmet and almost hits the cliff.
Oh my gosh. He looked very. The belayer looked like he started to panic because he was watching the climber do. Like he was too into what the climber was doing when he should have just been paying attention to his own technique
as soon
and
as-
properly doing it.
As soon as the climber dropped that rope after the belay catch, that belayer should have been getting in that rope as quickly as possible.
Okay, that one got me. I accidentally hit the mic just then. I was like, ah!
Yeah, it's
That was wild.
it's just very bad. And then you can see that his answer to try and take slack in, like he knows he wants to get like down low, like so his instinct is to lean forward. And as he leans forward, it feels like you're taking in slack, but his waist hasn't moved. And now he's just in a really crappy body position. And when it hits him, it flips him backwards. He's off. He's out of control.
Yeah.
He's just along for the ride, and he almost hits the cliff
I'm glad they cut
himself.
that video because I guarantee you he watched it and felt like an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can understand how it happened. Like, it's,
Right.
again, it's like...
Good to learn from, though.
It was bad belay technique. The guy needs to practice if he's going to be doing that kind of stuff. and just be more alert. And he made a mistake. Like it's what happens. I almost got dropped at, where was I? Not other critters. It was Clear Creek Canyon again, but with a group of people I'd not climbed with before, with a belayer I'd never had belay me before, in a group. I just got short roped on my project, and I felt like I was about to make the move. And I moved, I almost made the move. I could feel my hand got on the ledge, but just as it was touching the ledge and was getting onto it, I got short roped and I couldn't get my hand all the way on. And I just felt it just slip away. And I'm like, no, and I fell. So I was so upset. And the next person that belayed me, they paid out too much slack as I moved up low down on the route. I think it was just past the first bolt and was going for the second bolt and wasn't reaching up to clip. I was making the move before clipping, fell, and when I stopped, my hand was on the ground, above jagged rocks, was touching the ground.
Jeez.
So my butt was about 6 inches above the ground.
Woo.
Yeah, that was a wild one.
Yeah.
Didn't hit, but yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely remember it though.
Yeah, I didn't climb with that group very much after that.
Yeah, what's the next one we got?
All right, whippers.
Yeah, let's do whippers.
Whippers. All right.
Like that.
Nice.
Oh, except he hit.
So it says in the comments, I think I saw someone saying that. Oh yeah, so there you go. It's a comment from Climbing Magazine that says, heads up, even if a sport climb looks developed from the ground, new bolts, chalks on the holds, etc., it may have a trady alpine feel, meaning pieces may rip off in your hand, and you see that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good sized piece.
It's like a softball size piece that rips
It's
off.
coming down with him, so it's not likely to like hurt him too bad. It would probably glance off his head, but it
Yeah.
could hit anyone else underneath there.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's less than ideal to have a
Yeah.
piece of rock coming off with you, but it does happen.
I would have said the
and-
belayer did a pretty all right job for how fast
Yeah.
it came down.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
that's interesting just to kind of look at.
Let me just click it again.
Oh man, right when he was going for the chalk too, so he
Yeah.
wasn't even. He thought he had it.
So there's less
good.
slack in the system this time. But look how far forward that climber goes. So he's
Yeah.
way back here and he gets pulled pretty far forward. Mm-hmm. So he is out of control and along for the ride as well, just like the other guy.
So if he would have been a little bit more close to the wall.
Under the
like,
first bolt.
Like underneath completely, yeah. It
If you can
wouldn't
get
have, it
under
wouldn't
your
have
first
whipped him
bolt,
as
you
bad.
just go up. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to soft catch from there as well. He's only looking like he's got clipped into one
Right.
bolt at the beginning. Has a big old piece ripped out. You can see from the angle of the rope that that's the direction he's going to go in.
Yeah.
Some people like to do that to add friction to the first draw. So it's not the worst thing in the world. He did fine. Like given the circumstances, he did fine, and the climber was fine. And the rope he's out of any potential rockfall zone. He's off to the side, which is a good placement for the belayer. And the climber, you know, he just gets bad luck, and a bit of rock falls out, and he doesn't really come into too much problem there. I mean, they both hit, but then that's pretty inevitable if you fall off on the first bolt like that. It's inevitable. You're probably going to get in touch with each other. All right, the last video of
Last
the week.
one.
First trad whip fall. Let's go.
Oh man!
The things that go wrong on this climb.
Wow.
Here we go. Trad falls do not have to be like this.
So that's one break. That's two. So it looks like two of those anchors pop.
I don't think any of them come out,
Did
did
it? I thought it did.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So look again. So they're placing,
Yep.
or are they placing? Oh, nah, nothing comes out as
Oh,
far as I
okay.
can see. So I'm not. I don't know. I don't see anything fly off as they're going, and I don't know if that's gear. You can't really see from that video.
I think that's what they were trying to put in.
They are. I think they're just trying to hand jam because it looks like a piece of rock. Yeah, that's just. Yeah, they're just hand jamming. They're not
Oh
putting
yeah.
anything in.
Okay.
So on that one, have I ever mentioned that you should treat a ledge like the ground?
Wait, what is
Yeah,
that?
I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before. And for those thinking I go on about stuff for no good reason, I think we are going to have a lot of repetition, honestly, in this blog, because tying a rope in the end of the rope
wear a helmet.
is where a lot of people get killed. Wear a helmet. You know, treat ledges like the ground. You know, they are, you get those things under your belt. If we drill those into you enough times, then just maybe you won't fuck up like this, because this is a first trad whip, rather. So they maybe aren't that experienced a climber. if it's their first trad whip. They may have done lots of sport leading already and they might be aware of this. I am not averse to adventure. You know, I'm not averse to someone going out and like throwing themselves at something. Yesterday, I found the name of my first ever trad lead in my guidebook.
nice.
Yeah, I'll try to remember to bring it in next time. But
Another
it was
story.
yeah, it's got a story attached to it, and it was much harder than it should have been. I would struggle to climb it today. And this climber they're struggling a little bit on that. Like they come off, so they're clearly, their crack technique is not great. They've got some very nice taped up gloves by the look of it on there, and they're trying to struggle their way up, but they're right above that ledge. So they've put a piece in standing on the ledge. So that's the equivalent of standing on the ground and putting a piece in. Mm-hmm. Now, when you're up on the ledge, of course, it has the added value that it's going to catch you like this one does. So there is value to putting it in from the ledge if you need to. If you're comfortable on that ledge and there's a great placement and you haven't got a piece in for a few feet, heck yes, chuck something in. But it's not going to stop you hitting that ledge. Mm-hmm. It's going to stop you going past the ledge, but it's not going to stop you hitting the ledge. So you need to think of, what do I need to do immediately after that to stop hitting this ledge? You need to put another piece in, just like I said at the bottom where you put in pieces rapidly. When you get to ledges or obstacles, you need to start putting in pieces rapidly again to prevent yourself hitting that ledge. And you can start spacing them out as you clear those obstacles. And they don't do that on this one, and you see their feet hit the back.
Yeah, it looks like they probably think that they're close enough to the top.
And you see as they, well, yeah, that's the thing is, once people think that once you've got 10 feet off the ground, you can space stuff out 6-10 feet and you're fine. But a ledge you should treat like the ground again and start placing gear in quickly above it. So where they're trying to hand jam, they really should be looking to put some gear in. Now, again, if the climbing is comfortable and they don't feel the need to put gear in because it's comfortable enough, then sure, you know, you can run it out a little bit if you want. But it's not the smartest thing unless you're comfortable. And they clearly are not comfortable because their hand technique, their jamming technique is not sufficient because they fall. Mm-hmm. So they're clearly struggling. And watch their feet as they go. Boom.
Oh, they just, yeah, they kind of almost brought their feet up
So
instead of trying to catch.
Yeah, they do almost exactly the same as the person who's being lowered. They catch their heels and off they go. And that's what flips them upside down. So they don't have a bad rope placement. And that's not why they ended up upside down. They fall, hit that ledge, and get flipped. Mm-hmm. So they hit that ledge pretty hard, you know, as they went. They hit that with enough impact probably to get hurt.
Oh, it looks like
Bruised heels
almost
at
a
least.
broken back.
Yeah.
When they hit that ledge down there.
Yeah, they bruised themselves up pretty good and got a good old shake, and they may never lead to trad again. I'd be surprised.
The first and only.
Yeah, first trad whip and last trad lead.
If this is you and you see this video, let us know how it felt.
Show us the bruises.
I hope you're okay.
Yeah, I think they're probably okay, but still, easy mistake to make.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But easy thing to prevent. The fact that they can get their hands into that crack as well tell me that that's a juicy crack.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that would just eat up a number 1 or a number 2, or a hex of some kind would probably fit in there, depending on what it looks like. You can see that crack at the top. What a beautiful
Do you have
parallel
one
crack.
here?
Number 1 or number 2? Oh,
Yeah.
Got my number 2. All right, so that's my number 2. Camelot C4, old school. Not the ultralights. I already had these. I'm not spending more money on ultralights. And then got our number 1. So you can see they kind of go into thin hands and fat hands really nicely. So, and what I mean by that is if you can get your hand in there, then it'll probably take a number 1. And a fat hand like that, that's going to be your number 2.
Wow.
So you can kind of tell what kind of gear you can put in. So you can choose, sometimes you have to choose, do I put the piece in? Or do I put my hand in and climb? So that's probably what that guy who made the conscious decision to climb on and not put another cam in, and he's like, I'm good. I don't judge him for that, you know, because I've certainly been in that headspace before. I'm just like, I would rather push through this. There's that Winston Churchill quote, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Keep going, yeah.
That pops into my head a lot. I also have this little beauty. It's called the Link Cam by, is it Olympus? Omega Pacific. So there's your number 1 size. So that's the equivalent of the number 1.
That's pretty neat.
Which is cool. But watch, whoop, now it's a 0.5. Whoop.
Oh, wow.
Now it's, I forget what that is. What they go
So
to.
you measure that off of the,
Yeah, so this goes all the way from finger width
Oh, wow.
to hand width.
I've never done trad. I know almost nothing about it.
Yeah, finger width to hand width on that one. But
That's really cool.
They had a lot of safety issues with these, and the
There's a
nickname.
lot of moving parts.
Yeah, the nickname was their exploding cams. But I keep this as my emergency cam. It's a lot heavier than this one, so
Yeah.
you feel the weight difference between those two.
Oh wow, yeah.
Significantly heavier. So they do a number 2 size equivalent of that of the link cam as well. But I only ever had the single one, and I like it. What I love about it is I call this my Panic Pro. If I'm really struggling, you can literally just push this into a crack,
Oh,
and it'll just goes until it locks.
it fits. Yeah.
So you just like push it in there, and it just goes to whatever that size crack is, and pretty much settles in there. So I don't always rely on it, but I keep that on the front of my harness.
Cool.
First piece to grab on my right side, just because. Panicky Pro. when you're in it and you're feeling nervous, I don't care if they call that an exploding cam or not. It's going in, and it's usually the last piece I'll place. I rarely place it, honestly, in all the years I've had it. So
I love the idea of ending these and showing off gear.
my lovely, my pretties, my pretty, my precious, my precious. I do love this stuff. All right.
Awesome.
Awesome.
It was wonderful sitting here with you today.
Thanks,
Fiona, this has been so much
It was
fun.
okay sitting here with you.
Oh man.
It was okay.
Okay, I'll take that. Wasn't bad.
Was it as bad as last week? Let us know what you think. All 6 of you, we would like to thank you very much, all 6 of you, for watching again next week.
Watch us as we get better at this or worse at this. We'll see.
Yeah. So I'm editing these down quite a lot. Like we go on and on a lot. Let us know if you want the longer version. Let us know if you want a shorter version. Do you want a long audio version and a short video version?
The smart version, the idiot version, one of the two.
Clean and dirty. How do you feel about swearing?
I like it.
I fucking love it.
Yeah. I grew up in Chicago. Outside
I don't
Chicago.
know.
I should say.
That might. I don't know. I think we might try and have a clean version and a dirty version. So
perfect.
thanks very much for watching episode 2.
Yeah, get out there and send it.
Thanks everyone. Bye.